Hey guys, what's up? This is Icy Soul from Icy Duelist, and today we are going to be looking at my top 20 favorite cards that got censored. Uh, to make this list, you either have to have a really hilarious censorship of your card, a really creepy censorship of your card, or perhaps the original artwork was just way hotter or way better than the artwork that they censored. So, without further ado, let's get into this list. At number 20, we have Last Day of Witch. The original artwork it was censored because it was looking too much like the Salem witch trials. But it kind of even really doesn't because look at the guys. They're wearing kind of like Romanish kind of helmets, so I don't see how that's possibly related to Salem witch trials. But it's not so much that gets me. It's the card art they changed it to. It looks like a 10-year-old made it in MS Paint. It is the most atrocious looking card art probably in the entire game. So Last Day of Witch is absolutely just hilarious for the censorship, and they could have done a way better censorship job on that than just replacing the art with something that stupid looking. So that's why Last Day of the Witch is at number 20. At number 19, we have Tragedy. This used to be a picture of a guillotine, and they changed it to something that I think is actually worse. They changed it to this picture of this woman getting stalked by this creepy, like almost Freddy Krueger looking guy, and she looks terrified, and it looks a bit rapey to me. So that's why I would have rather preferred to have the guillotine over this, because this is one time where the censorship was kind of defeating the purpose, and it actually made the card worse. So that's why Tragedy is at number 19. At number 18, we have the entire Destiny board. As you know, that the Destiny board is a series of spell cards that, when activated, spell out a word, a 5-letter word. And when you actually activate all of these cards, you instantly win the duel. So the original Destiny board used to read the letters D, E, A, T, and H, spelling death. But, since it's it's obviously mentioning death, they actually censored it, and you'll notice this in the anime as well. They changed the word death to the word final, so it spells Final. So I honestly much preferred the death thing, because I thought that was kind of cooler. That's the way you win a duel, by literally spelling death for your opponent. So that's why Destiny board is at number 18. Number 17, we probably have the newest card out of all of these cards that I've listed. At number 17, and that's Spicy Spy. I actually did not know this card was censored until I was looking up these censored cards to make this list. But in the original Japanese version of the card, you'll notice a few things that are different from the English version. You'll notice that the men in the background who are looking at the woman in the Japanese version have hearts in their eyes. You'll notice that the woman's bust is a bit larger. You'll notice her thighs are showing. And the reason why the men's eyes were changed was to avoid any connotations of lust. Obviously, the woman was desexualized. And also, that's not the only thing. The man also had some changes done to him. His cigar was taken out and replaced with a slightly larger mustache, so it seems like he's twirling his mustache in the English version. And you'll notice his cup of his glass of wine is also gone. So I thought Spicy Spy was kind of an interesting card. How they had all these elements kind of taken out for all kinds of different reasons. So that's why Spicy Spy is at number 17. Next, we have a really old card. Number 16 is Parasite. And the original card art, I remember the first time I saw this original card art, it was quite disturbing to me. I remember seeing the censored card art in the anime, which, is nothing really to look at, but the original card art was just disturbing, as you'll see. So honestly, this one I am kind of glad that they censored, but yeah, the original card art, you gotta admit, is disturbing, but it is pretty cool as well. So that's why Parasite is at number 16. Next, we have Heatwave at number 15. Obviously censored for its really graphic depiction of like the melting of flesh, but it's a spell card that basically makes it so neither player can normal or special summon during their main phase 1 until the card activator's next draw phase, which actually in the today's meta might be actually a decent card. But as you'll notice in the censored version, the dinosaur who's getting his face melted off in the original, both his face and tail melted off, actually has his face and tail intact, and he's kind of just beginning to feel the effects of Heatwave in the English censored version, while in the Japanese original version, he's already gone. So that's why Heatwave's at number 15. I think it's just an awesome. The original card art is just super badass looking and awesome card art for a card with this kind of effect. At number 14, we have a card that I hadn't heard of until today, Ill Witch. Obviously, she's nude, and I think that's kind of cooler than having her white robe. But also, I'm surprised they didn't actually censor this, but this is something I noticed. It kind of almost looks like she's given a blowjob face, which I'm surprised they didn't censor that in the English version, of the card where she's wearing her robe. But I guess they figured, they may not make that connection because she's not nude. So, but that's just something I noticed that, if I was like remaking that card and censoring it, that's probably something I would have changed. But yeah, so that's why Ill Witch is at number 14. So at number 13, we have a really beautiful and sort of tragic card at the same time. We have Butterflyoke. And Butterflyoke is a trap card that says when an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, change that target to defense position, and if you do, equip this card to that monster. Once per turn during either player's main phase or battle phase, you can change the equipped monster's battle position. So in the English version, it's nice and beautiful. You got all these butterflies flying around with this beautiful like sunlit backdrop with like ripples in the water over a pond. It's nice and beautiful. But in the original Japanese version, in the water where you would see the ripples in the English version, there is actually a hand reaching out, sort of like as if the person is drowning. So I thought that was kind of cool, kind of tragic, and kind of intense, for that the contrasting like gloom and doom of the person drowning with the butterflies flying overhead. I thought that was just super, super cool. So that's why with this original card art, Butterflyoke is at number 13. At number 12, we have Mist Valley Shaman. And honestly, this was actually censored more for its religious connotations, I believe, rather than the fact that she looks like she's in a bondage outfit in the first one. But yeah, I like that first one more because it's definitely sexier, and the second one kind of just it's like what's going on with that one. I mean, it's not as captivating as the original Japanese card art where her bust is bigger, she's showing more cleavage. She's got that face mask covering her eyes, and she got her mouth open. So that's it's people said it was like spiritually was the reason why it was censored, because it looks like she's quote unquote being possessed. But honestly, I don't think that's the real reason it was censored. I think it's because she looks like she's going to a sex club. So that's why Mist Valley Shaman is at number 12. That awesome original card art. At number 11, we have Cyber Tutu. Cyber Tutu was, as you know, one of Alexis's cards in GX, and this one was kind of hard to see at first, but if you notice the English version, her skirt is a bit bigger. It's a bit frillier and covers more, and it's more. It has a more solid color to it. While in the Japanese version, her skirt is much shorter. It's more transparent, and you can start to see a little bit of her butt there. So, I don't think the bust was actually reduced on this one, but yeah, it's mostly for her skirt and how short it was and how transparent it was. But I definitely like that original Cyber Tutu art much better. It's something that if you don't really notice it at first, you may just pass it by. But once you do notice it, you're like, well, that's kind of hot. So that's why Cyber Tutu is at number 11. At number 10, we have a really, really kind of old card. I think it was one of the first cards to ever come out in Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely one of the best spell cards of the very, very, very first meta. And that was Soul Release. Soul Release, as you see, is another one of those nude versus clothed cards. Honestly, looking back on it now, I think that the girl on Soul Release may actually be the ill witch that I was talking about earlier, that nobody seems to know, but just with like a different, little bit slightly altered color palette. But because of this card is so classic and so recognized and popular, definitely it had to go on this list. And the fact, that the uncensored version, she's freaking nude and hot, and what more can you say? It's Soul Release, it's sexy, and that is why Soul Release is at number 10. And number 9, we have a card that was censored for both religious and sexual reasons. That is Dark Witch, the really old famous Dark Witch. And as you'll notice in the Japanese version, she has more bigger, redder horns, and definitely a way, way, way low-cut dress with lots of cleavage. And actually, in the English version, her horns were made shorter, they were made white, and she was given a bigger and longer dress to try to hide some of, her lady bits. But you just gotta love that original sexy card art, man. I mean, a lot of these cards I've picked because the original card art was much sexier than the English one they censored it to, and I wish they had kind of at least, kind of translated it into English. Maybe not necessarily released it in sets, but maybe sold it on the side, as uncensored in English to the older fans. Dark Witch is definitely a card they should have done that for. So that's why Dark Witch is at number 9. At number 8, we have a card that I just found out about going through these cards. And I'm surprised nobody talks about her, nobody draws fan art of her, nobody even really knows her. But I gotta say, she's definitely just as hot, if not hotter, than Dark Magician Girl. So I'm surprised nobody recognizes her. But at number 8, we have GB Hunter. And GB Hunter is this totally badass and hot looking army girl. She's got a cool freaking faceplate on, these freaking awesome light swords on her arms, and freaking all curvy and sexy and stuff. And she's damn, this is probably an army guy's dream girl right here. And as you see in the original Japanese version, although she is clothed, which is surprising, because normally when it comes to sexuality on these censored cards, they generally clothe things that are unclothed, and that's how they censor them. But in this case, what's weird is that what they actually censored was already clothed to begin with, and that is her thighs. She actually has more thigh showing in the original card art, but it is still covered with a camo spandex kind of a thing. So it's kind of weird how they censored in the English version. They censored it with her like latex outer suit covering a bit more of her thighs, which I think is kind of unnecessary. They could have gotten away without this censorship, and it still would have been fine and still freaking hot as hell. I mean, both card arts are still hot as hell, but definitely the original one is definitely a lot hotter. And I'm definitely going to be making a deck with GB Hunter in the future, and I'll probably give you guys a deck profile with that, simply because I just found this card. She's hot. I gotta put her in a deck. So that is why GB Hunter is at number 8. So at number 7, we have a really controversial card. This is Majigire Panda. And Majigire Panda has seen some play lately in a few of the past formats. It's not really been a really popular card, but I have seen it played. And it is a earth monster, obviously a beast type, 1000 attack, 800 defense. And the reason why this card art was censored was because of its really graphic depiction of domestic violence. As you'll notice in the original Japanese card art, you'll see the like a mother panda and a child panda in the back crying, holding each other, and that was part of the domestic violence part. And even more disturbing was the little panda on the bookshelf, the little head of the panda. And although Konami, when this card was addressed about why it was so violent, Konami actually addressed that that's actually another child, but another full breathing healthy child. But people automatically assumed that because all you could see is a head, that people thought it was a severed head of a panda, perhaps another one of this raging panda's children that he just chopped off their head and put as an animal trophy on his book stand, or his dresser. So obviously very violent card, so Konami censored it. And I mean, honestly, I am kind of happy they censored this one, but just the sheer controversy of this one kind of makes it why I chose it to be number 7. At number 6, we have another nude versus clothed card, and that is Water Omatics. And as you see beforehand, she obviously probably this is the most revealing. I've seen a bunch of the nude female cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think, honestly, this one may be the most revealing out of all of them. And as you see, there's really not much to say about the original version. She's nude. And the censored version, she is covered with blue scales. So, and honestly, I think the colors, honestly, in both of these card art is actually really nice. Obviously, I prefer the uncensored version, but the censored version is also kind of really nice. It's got that nice color balance, and I think that's really cool. And that's why Water Omatics is at number 6. At number 5, we have a card that I've absolutely loved and tried so desperately to make a cool deck out of that doesn't revolve around its actual archetype, but nonetheless, I can't really do it, but nonetheless, I still love this card. This is at number 5. It's Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. In the I don't know if it's actually censored in the anime or not. It may be, but and I don't believe they've actually censored it for the English TCG. I believe it's the same in the English TCG as it is in the Japanese OCG, but as you'll see, the original Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll is laying in a coffin. She has dried blood on her headband, as if she had a concussion. She's her eye is maybe missing and flowing blood. She's got blood stains on her dress, and I thought it was kind of a really visceral kind of card and really creepy freaking looking card. And she just wakes up from her coffin and looks around, and God, you don't want to run into her in the middle of the night. But as you see in the Korean version, which I think they may have censored in the anime as well, you see she's no longer has the blood stains anywhere. She doesn't have the blood coming down from her eye, and she also is, instead of a coffin, laying in a present box. So honestly, the original version way goddamn cooler than the Korean censored version, but and I've loved this card for a long time, and that's why it made it into the top 5 of this top 20 censored cards lists. And I just love Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. Awesome card art, and definitely better than what they censored it to. That's why she's at number 5. At number 4, we have Rise of the Snake Deity. I know there's a bunch of cards out there that feature Venomanaga, the deity of poisonous snakes, on them, and they're kind of all censored in the same way. But I like Rise of the Snake Deity the best because, you're right at close up and you can see kind of how hot Venomanaga is. In other cards, she's kind of, her chest is kind of out back in the distance, and you can't really, tell how hot she is. But in this card, she's right close up and you can see it, and I think it's awesome. And you see in the uncensored version, she has a bit more of her crotch showing, and she's definitely got lighter skin and bigger, more defined breasts. And in the censored version, why they changed her skin so dark, I don't really know. It's not like you can pass it off as she's wearing a suit. I mean, even with the armor, you can obviously still see its skin, not a suit. So I don't know why they changed the color. It doesn't really serve a purpose to their censorship. But as you see, the crotch is a bit more covered, and her breasts are a tiny bit smaller, and they don't have much of a defined line to show that they're actually breasts. So you may just think that, her breasts aren't as existent as they are in the uncensored version, and that's just some kind of armor plate that's defined for bigger breasts, but it doesn't really fit Venomanaga with, it's not like she has the same size breast as her breastplate. So, but I definitely like the uncensored version better because, they don't skip on the breasts, and they don't try to pass it off as, it's just armor. So definitely Venomanaga, she could have been one of the contenders for one of the top, hottest cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! If they had given her a chance with this uncensored card art, but in America. So that's why Rise of the Snake Deity is at number 4. At number 3, we are getting down to the wire here, guys. At number 3, we have Harpie Girl. Obviously, the original version, she ain't wearing much. It's very, it's spandex with lots of holes and lots of skin showing. Very beautiful and very, very sexy. So, and you see, and I think probably out of all the cards on this list, Harpie Girl's the card they censored it to, besides Last Day of Witch, which, is really bad. But I think besides Last Day of Witch, Harpie Girl is probably one of the worst censorships that they've done. I mean, they could have easily gone with a way better color for her spandex suit in the censored version. Besides this really ugly freaking looking like turquoise, it just doesn't fit the eye right, just especially with the background, and I don't like it. I would have not had so much of a problem with the censored art. I mean, even if it was censored where she's not showing as much skin, I wouldn't have had that much of a problem with it, if her spandex was a better color than what they picked. But yeah, so Harpie Girl, definitely way better in the uncensored version. That's why she's at number 3. At number 2, we have Dramatic Rescue. And Dramatic Rescue, honestly, I like both these card arts. They're really cool. I think the uncensored is a bit better because, one, more skins being shown. She's got a bigger bust. The situation definitely is more dramatic, with her arm being caught in a guillotine as it's coming down. She's reaching out for this man to save her, and it's very desperate and very, dramatic. So definitely that's way cooler, but, the censored card art ain't that bad either. The censored card art has her tied to a tree instead, with guards on the lookout for anybody who might try to save her, and the same guys reaching out to her trying to save her. And honestly, I think both these card arts are cool, but definitely the uncensored one is a little bit cooler. So that's why Dramatic Rescue is at number 2. And finally, my friends, the number 1 card that I have listed on my top 20 favorite censored cards of all time is one of the main female protagonists of one of my favorite decks to play, being Harpies, and that number 1 spot goes to Harpie Queen. Harpie Queen, oh my god, I freaking love this card. I mean, the censored version is extremely crappy, and I've actually refrained from buying a Harpie Queen just because I know I'll be getting that censored version, and I'd much rather wait, pay the extra money to someone, try to get somebody to do that uncensored card art, because if I can't have that uncensored card art of Harpie Queen, what's the point? So, uncensored, she is just ridiculously hot. I mean, I can't even stress that enough. And she is definitely the sexiest of all the Harpie cards, period. This is not up for discussion. She is the hottest of all the Harpies, all the Harpie ladies, all the Harpie sisters. You know, she's got it. And Harpie Queen is definitely my most favorite card that unfortunately got censored because people can't deal with nudity. Whatever. So, yeah, that is my list of the top 20 cards that are my favorite cards that got censored. And I hope you like this video. Remember, if you want more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content on a weekly basis, hit that subscribe button, check out some of my other videos. And as always, this is Icy Soul for Icy Duelist, signing out.